Hello all, this is the course project for Managing Machine Learning Project course. Our project task was to choose a topic within the industry that we work in where we might see an opportunity for machine learning. And then we had to go through each of these steps to evaluate the business problems that we have identified and evaluate the business understanding, the solution validation plan, and go through the decisions that we have to take from ML system design perspective and identify the potential risks in production. To start with, the first step was to evaluate the opportunity. The problem statement that I chose was forecasting devices sale, in particular laptop sales for devices manufacturer. We had to talk about three specific topics. The first topic was if there is in fact, a problem. Currently, the forecast solution that we have primarily uses Excels and some statistical rules, which makes the forecast not very accurate. Because of this inaccuracy in forecast, there it leads to either excess inventory, which actually might result in financial losses, and there are times where we are not able to actually fulfill the customer demand because of the inventory shortages, which also impacts customer satisfaction and eventually leads to potential sales loss. The persona that we are targeting are the demand planners, which who actually work on creating, planning the inventory. There are operations, which whose main responsibility is to ensure that the demands are fulfilled within a specified SLA. And of course, there are financial implications. So business users would be our identified personas. Now, the third step was, can machine learning help solve it? We think there is a complex relationship between the factors and the features that we have identified impacting demand, but it cannot be solved through a simple correlation. And that is something that our machine learning can identify a relationship with. And that is something we think machine learning can help solve it. The next step is the CRISP DM understanding. To do that, we actually answer these three questions. The first thing is to define the problem. The problem, as I stated before, was that currently we have manual solution where we need to export the data manually in the Excel and then apply certain rules, which results into inaccurate forecast. Business From business perspective, it leads to financial losses because of excess inventory or due to inventory shortages. Our success criteria would be to accurately forecast the device's laptop sales, which will help in optimizing the inventory that we have by accurately predicting the forecast. The constraints that we have is because the demand forecast that we have to do, it has to be done 2 3 weeks in advance, so as to fulfill the as per the demand that we have predicted. The outcome, or the metrics that we are tracking would be, from business perspective, reducing the cost of maintaining excess inventory or saving manual effort taken by the operations and demand planners to do this manually. The output metric that we are tracking is the accuracy of forecasting, the model that we create, and we would be using mean squared error for this output metric tracking. Relevant factors or features that we think might impact the laptop sales are, of course, the seasonality. It could be holiday season where people might decide to gift, or college admission cycle where most of the students would buy a laptop. The price of the product is, like, it impacts the demand because depending on the other product at of certain specification, what is the price range and where does our product fall in that range. We also need to actually evaluate the historic trend, how the sales trend of certain electronic item or the devices or the laptop business is trending will also impact the demand for sale, demand or the laptop sales as well. The next step is to come up with the solution hypothesis and create a plan to validate that hypothesis. The first step was to identify where does it fall in the matrix that we have created. Is the problem that we're creating worth solving? So we tried to plot the problem, and if you can see that the business impact it has is higher because of the reasons I explained earlier. The feasibility is something that is higher also because we have been able to forecast it through the heuristic or the trend plotting, but it's not been accurate. So that is why we think it is a high impact, high feasibility option. The hypothesis that we have is, given we have access to data around all of the features impacting sales, we should be able to create a model which can predict devices sales. Now, to create the feasibility and effectiveness as a model, what we have done is we have the access to all of the data for past 5 years. We divided that into training, validation, and testing set, which included data like the sales trend, seasonality, the price of the product, regions of sales to create a mock-up model. We use this data to some of the data to validate the model and predicting the sales. This is something that we tried to validate against the actual sales that we had. We worked this through with the planners or the personas that we had identified. They would give us few feedback which we'll use to revalidate this feature or the hypothesis that we have. The next step is about the certain key decisions that we would have to take as part of the solution. The first point is cloud versus edge. As we know that we would have internet connectivity, which is reliable, then we also know that we don't need immediate prediction for the forecast that we have to do. In short, the latency here is not that critical. We can afford to send data to cloud. It is not a PII or a PII data. And our goal is to have high accuracy and performance from the model. That's why we think cloud would be a correct option here. The second decision that we'll have to take is if it is a offline versus online learning. Now, our goal is to predict the sales. Uh, our model will, of course, have to relearn based on the sales prediction that we are making, but it does not have to be in real time or continuous. Our model can relearn based on a scheduled time, could be weeks or months that we specify. Um, we also chose offline learning because it is easier to implement and evaluate. The third decision was batch predictions versus online prediction. We chose batch prediction because we'll have access to big volume of data, and batch prediction can help us process big volume data. Again, we don't need immediate response or real time response around prediction of sales because anyways the decisions that we have to take has to be evaluated later based on the prediction that is made. So we think batch prediction is a better option rather than online prediction. Now, next was to identify potential production risk that we see after we have chosen the model and implemented that. For forecasting sales, we see that devices sales forecasting or laptop sales forecasting can be impacted by multiple external factors. There could be concept as well as data drift in future because our sales and the demand of certain electronics or laptop is highly tied to the customer preference. So the alternative to using laptop or any customer preferences in the long run might change, the model that we have created. From data drift perspective, there could be environmental changes which can, create or change the distribution of features that we have used to train the model. So these are the risks that we have identified. So that covers all of the five sections that we had to cover from the project perspective. Thank you.